Evan tapped a spoon against his glass while Mara was still cutting foil from the last case of Barolo. "To 10 years, he said, lifting his wine toward the crowded shop, "and to the woman who saved Bellwether when we almost lost everything. My mother." Lorraine rose from Mara's curved walnut chair behind the tasting table. The suppliers nearest her applauded. So did the restaurant buyers, then everyone else, because applause moved through a room faster than doubt. Mara stood with the foil cutter in one hand. When Nathan Cole tried to draw attention back to her, Mara's work on the portfolio deserves some credit, too. Evan laughed warmly. "That's family help. It's what we do." Lorraine touched her heart. The pale wine ring on the arm of Mara's chair disappeared beneath her fingers. Evan announced that Bellwether's 3-year supplier renewal was complete. More applause. He waved Nathan forward to make it official. Nathan opened the approval page on his tablet. "I'm still missing Mara's signature." Across the room, Evan looked at Mara. He didn't look confused. He looked afraid. For one clean second, the shop went quiet enough for Mara to hear the refrigeration unit click off. Then Lorraine laughed. "Well," put a pen in her hand. A few people joined her, relieved to have been told what kind of moment this was. A joke, a harmless oversight, one more wife cleaning up one more detail while her husband held the microphone. Nathan didn't laugh. He held the tablet against his chest and glanced at Mara. "It's electronic." "Even easier," Lorraine said. Mara set the foil cutter on the counter. "I'd like to review the final version." Evan's smile stayed in place, but a small muscle worked beside his mouth. "You reviewed it." "I reviewed a draft in March, and nothing material changed." Nathan shifted his weight. "There were changes to the financial representations." Mara looked at him. "What changes?" A server passed between them carrying 6 glasses of Gruner Veltliner, smiling too hard. Behind her, the store glowed exactly as Mara had planned it. Amber lamps, cream labels, dark wood, bottles lined up with their faces turned out. Every place setting had a card printed with the Bellwether Compass logo Evan had sketched on a cocktail napkin 10 years ago. Every card had been centered by Mara at 1 that afternoon, because Evan said he had to pick up ice and vanished for 2 hours. Lorraine touched Evan's sleeve. "This is hardly the setting." Mara looked at the tablet. "Apparently it is." Nathan lowered his voice. "You have a 5-business-day review period. We can discuss it Monday." "Great," Evan said quickly. "That's settled. Nathan, tell them about the growers we're adding." Nathan's eyes remained on Mara for half a beat. "Monday." He walked toward the front display, where a vineyard owner from Oregon was examining a bottle as if the back label had suddenly become fascinating. Evan picked up his microphone again. "As I was saying," the room restarted around him. Glasses lifted. People talked louder than before. Lorraine sat back in Mara's chair and crossed her ankles, one suede pump swinging beneath the hem of her ivory trousers. Mara reached under the counter for her green wax pencil. She had been using the same kind since the shop opened, soft enough to write on glass, stubborn enough to survive condensation. A diagonal mark meant a restaurant hold. A circle meant a customer had paid. 2 short lines meant don't sell it even if Evan says it's fine. She marked 2 Barolos and carried them to the reserve shelf. Mara. Celia Grant stood at her elbow with a tray balanced on one hand. Her black blouse was damp between the shoulder blades. "Do you want me to move Lorraine?" "Where?" "Off your chair." Mara almost smiled. "Are you going to dump her out of it?" "I was thinking of telling her the leg is loose." "The leg isn't loose. It could develop a condition." Mara slid the Barolos into place. "Leave it." Celia's mouth tightened. She had worked at Bellwether for 6 years and could identify cork taint before most customers finished saying they just weren't sure about the aroma. She also knew when not to push. "The Sancerre table is out of ice," Mara said. "I told Evan 20 minutes ago." "He'll get to it." "Sure, right after his 2nd term in Congress." That time, Mara did smile. Celia took the victory and disappeared into the crowd. Mara moved through the tasting as if it were any other event. She found more ice. She corrected a price card that listed a wholesale cost instead of retail. She steered a talkative cardiologist away from a winemaker who had already heard the man's story about a disastrous bicycle tour. She fetched Lorraine a clean glass when Lorraine held up one, spotted with lipstick, and said, "This one seems to have been used." "It has," Mara said, "by you." Lorraine looked at the coral print on the rim, then smiled. "That explains why I like the color. It was the sort of answer that made strangers find her charming. Up close, Mara could smell Lorraine's perfume, orange blossom over something powdery. Lorraine had worn the same scent the night the refrigeration compressor failed. She had arrived at 11 with her checkbook, still dressed from a symphony fundraiser, and stepped around leaking boxes while Evan told her they were ruined. Mara had been on the loading dock with a towel under her knees, sorting bottles by temperature and calling distributors. Lorraine's check had been for $180,000. Real money. Necessary money. Mara had thanked her before the ink dried. She had also spent the next 9 days negotiating credits, temporary storage, freight delays, and a revised payment schedule with Nathan's company. Evan handled the insurance adjuster and told the story afterward as if he had wrestled the compressor into submission with his bare hands. Lorraine turned her new glass by the stem. "I hope you're not upset about the toast." "Which part?" "Oh, Mara. Was it the part where Evan called my work family help?" Lorraine's expression softened, which was always worse than anger. He was trying to keep the speech light. People don't want an operations report with their wine. They apparently wanted a lending report. My loan is part of Bellwether's history. Yes, and I did help save the store. Yes. Lorraine waited for more. Mara gave her nothing. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Then we agree. We agree you made a loan. To my family. To an LLC at 6%, less than a bank would have charged you, and secured by inventory." Lorraine set down her glass. "You have always had a gift for making generosity sound like paperwork. And you have always had a gift for signing paperwork." "Mara." Evan appeared beside them, still holding the microphone, though it was switched off now. "Can I borrow you?" "You already did." His eyes hardened. Lorraine looked away, pretending interest in the cheese board. "Office," he said. Mara followed him down the narrow hall past the restroom and into the room they grandly called the office. It held one metal desk, 2 filing cabinets, a label printer, and enough cardboard wine shippers to survive a siege. Evan closed the door. "What was that?" he asked. "A tasting. With Nathan. He asked for my signature. And you made it sound like you might not sign. I haven't read the agreement." "You read it in March. The financial representations changed." He stared at her, deciding how much she knew. That frightened look had vanished so completely, she wondered if she had imagined it. "What did you represent?" she asked. "Nothing that isn't true." "That wasn't the question. We updated the projections." "Using what?" "Our restaurant growth. My restaurant accounts." "Our accounts, Mara, Bellwether's." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because every conversation about the shop turns into a deposition." She laughed once. "That's a fascinating answer from a man who hid paperwork." "I didn't hide anything. Nathan sent the revision to the business email." "The business email you changed the password on last month. For security. And then forgot to give me the new one." "You could have asked." "I did, twice." Evan rubbed the back of his neck. His anniversary shirt was darkening at the collar. He was handsome in the approachable way that made people trust him with recommendations. Sandy hair that never looked deliberately styled, blue eyes, a face that suggested he had just remembered something funny. Mara had once loved watching strangers become his friends across the counter. Now she watched him reach for charm and decide they were too far past it. "You are the designated buyer," he said. "Your signature is required. You sign the renewal like we discussed, and we move on. We never discussed the final agreement. We discussed renewing. That's not the same thing. Why are you doing this tonight? Mara looked at the closed door. Beyond it came a muffled burst of laughter. I'm not the one who picked tonight. His jaw moved. My mother deserved recognition. She got my chair. It's a chair. You gave her my alarm code. She needed access for the event. She had a key for emergencies. You gave it to her in April. There have been emergencies since April. What were they? Evan looked toward the shelves of cardboard as if an answer might be printed on one. This, tonight, setup, vendor meetings. What vendor meetings? He exhaled through his nose. You see? Deposition. Mara opened the office door. He caught it with one hand. Don't make this ugly. She looked at his fingers spread against the wood. His wedding band had a smear of red wine across it. I'm going to finish the event. And Monday? Monday, I'll read what you submitted under my name. I didn't submit anything under your name. Then you have nothing to be afraid of. For the second time that night, she saw it. Not guilt, exactly. Calculation. Then Celia called from the hall. We have a glass situation. Evan stepped back. What does that mean? It means Mr. Hanley demonstrated with his hands. On the sales floor, a semicircle had formed around a broken burgundy glass. Mr. Hanley stood in the center, holding a cheese pick and explaining that the bowl had been too delicate. The glass surrendered, Celia told Mara. I barely touched it, Mr. Hanley said. It saw you coming, Mara replied. He laughed, the tension broke, and people shifted aside while she swept up the fragments. Evan returned to circulating. Lorraine remained in the walnut chair. By 9:30, the last vineyard representative had packed his brochures. Nathan shook Evan's hand near the door, then came to Mara. I'll send the complete packet to your personal email, he said. Why not the business account? Your personal email is listed for guarantor notices. Evan, 10 feet away, was stacking empty cases. His movements became very quiet. Mara said, Thank you. Nathan hesitated. He was a precise man in his 50s who wore brown suits and never pretended a mediocre wine had an interesting finish. For what it's worth, I assumed you'd seen the revisions. Why? Evan said you had. There it was, small enough to fit inside a sentence. Mara nodded. Monday. Lorraine approached with her coat draped over her shoulders and Mara's chair key in her hand, not the store key. The little brass key to the shallow drawer beneath the chair's seat, where Mara kept wax pencils, tasting spoons, her old corkscrew, and a folded copy of their first day's sales receipt. I found this in the drawer, Lorraine said. I was looking for a pen. She placed it in Mara's palm. The brass was warm from her hand. You should keep personal things at home, Lorraine added, now that the shop is getting more professional. Evan stopped stacking boxes. Mara closed her fingers around the key. Did you find a pen? Eventually. Lorraine kissed Evan's cheek. Sunday at 11, we have numbers to go over. What numbers? Mara asked. Lorraine's gaze moved to Evan. He lifted a case as though he hadn't heard. The expansion projections, Lorraine said. It will all be in the packet. After she left, Mara locked the front door and turned the sign to closed. Evan took the trash out without being asked. Celia counted the register, humming under her breath, but she lost her place twice. Mara went to the walnut chair. 10 years earlier, Evan had carried it through the front door with a red ribbon tied around its back. You need a throne, he had said, because she had spent 3 straight weeks sitting on overturned cases while they prepared to open. The pale ring on the arm had come from the glass they shared after their first profitable month. Mara had tried to wipe it away the next morning. Evan stopped her. Leave it, he'd said. Proof we were here. The drawer stuck halfway. Mara worked the brass key, pulled harder, and found her green pencils shoved to one side beneath a stack of glossy cards. She took one out. Lorraine Bell, Financial Director. Below Lorraine's name was the Bellwether compass, embossed in gold. There were 50 cards in the stack. Celia had stopped humming. Evan came back through the rear door, bringing cold air and the smell of wet pavement. He saw the card in Mara's hand. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then he set down the trash bin key and said, "I was going to tell you after the tasting." Mara ran her thumb across the gold compass. "No," she said. "You were going to tell me after I signed." Evan looked at Celia. "Could you give us a minute?" Celia closed the cash drawer. "I'm not finished. I'm asking as the owner." "So is she." Mara placed Lorraine's card back on the stack. "Finish the register, Celia." Evan waited until Celia carried the deposit pouch into the office. Then he came closer, keeping his voice low. "It's a title." "It's 50 titles. The printer had a minimum." "That's your defense?" "It's not a defense because I didn't do anything wrong. Mom is managing the loan, working with the accountant, and helping us plan the expansion. Financial director describes what she's doing. She attends meetings I don't know about and has access to our store. Because when I try to include you, you make every decision take 6 weeks. Name one." "The second location." "We can't afford a second location." "That, right there." Mara stared at him. "The compressor loan has 4 years left. Our lease increases in January. Half the inventory you used in your projections isn't guaranteed beyond this renewal, and you're calling me difficult because I won't pretend we can afford another lease. We're not signing one tomorrow." "Does Lorraine know that?" "She knows we're exploring. She thinks she's the financial director." "She's trying to help. So am I, apparently." Evan's face tightened. "I shouldn't have said that." "No, you meant it. That's why it came out so easily." "I was making a toast. You thanked her for saving Bellwether while I was holding a box cutter. A foil cutter." The correction left his mouth before he could stop it. Mara laughed, and the sound startled both of them. Evan covered his eyes with one hand. "Okay, that was bad. That was perfect. I'm tired. We're all tired. I know what you've done here." "Do you?" "Yes, I do. But Mom wrote a check when no bank would. She showed up." Mara was already here, Celia said from the office doorway. Evan turned. "I thought you were counting." "I was, then you got loud." "You're an employee, Celia, and I have now learned where the walls are." Mara took the deposit pouch from her. "I'll put this in the safe." "I can do it." "I know." Celia studied her for a moment, then collected her coat from the hook. At the rear door, she stopped beside Evan. "For the record, the first thing Mara did after the compressor went was save the Müller-Thurgau because your mother liked it." Lorraine did not like Müller-Thurgau. She liked saying it. Mara waited until Celia left before she opened the safe. Evan began straightening cards that were already straight. "She's out of line." "She's right." "That doesn't make her less out of line." Mara locked the deposit pouch inside. "Send me the new password to the business email." "Fine. And I want copies of every expansion document, every communication with Nathan's company, and every meeting note involving Lorraine. You'll have the packet." "I didn't ask for a packet. I asked for everything." His phone buzzed on the counter. Lorraine's name lit the screen. Evan turned it face down. Mara picked up her coat, the brass drawer key still pressed into her palm. "Are you coming home?" "I need to finish here." "Doing what?" "Apparently assembling evidence for the prosecution." "Send me the password." He did it before she reached the door. At home, Mara left her anniversary dress on the bathroom floor and stood under the shower until the hot water thinned. The apartment above the old hardware store had been their compromise between Evan's desire to live downtown and Mara's desire not to share a wall with the wine shop. It was an 8-minute walk from Bellwether. For 10 years, that distance had been long enough for them to become husband and wife again after closing. She sat at the kitchen table in a robe and opened the renewal packet Nathan had emailed. The contract itself was 63 pages. The damage lived in the attachments. Evan's projections showed restaurant sales increasing by 30%. He listed 12 accounts as committed growth, including Gannett, Lucia, and North Pine. Mara had spent years building those relationships, one staff tasting and emergency delivery at a time. None had committed to higher volume. 2 had warned her they were cutting their wine lists. The financial narrative described Lorraine's loan as stabilizing capital supplied by ownership family. Mara read the phrase 3 times. Lorraine owned nothing. Farther down, under operational continuity, Mara remained designated buyer, compliance contact, and personal guarantor. Her experience, vendor history, and professional references filled nearly a page. Evan had minimized her everywhere people might see and enlarged her everywhere money could fail. The apartment door opened at 12:40. Evan set his keys in the blue ceramic bowl and found her at the table. "You're still up." "So are the restaurant accounts. 30% apparently." He took off his jacket. "Those are targets. They're listed as committed growth. They're projections." "Then why use the word committed?" "Because Nathan's team wanted confidence. They wanted accurate information. They wanted a business case for renewing us at our current allocation. And you gave them mine. Our business, our case." Mara turned the laptop toward him. "Why is Lorraine's loan described as capital from ownership family?" "Because my mother loaned us emergency cash after our equipment exploded sounds unstable." "The equipment didn't explode. It's a figure of speech. She's not ownership family. She's a lender related to one owner." "You're parsing." "I'm reading. That's what you do. You take a sentence, pin it down, and cut it apart until there's nothing alive left in it." Mara closed the laptop. "Did Nathan know I hadn't seen the revision?" Evan pulled out the chair opposite her but didn't sit. "I thought you'd seen it." "You told him I had." "I assumed you had access to the email. You changed the password. That was a mistake. You didn't give me the new one after I asked. Another mistake. And the cards?" His eyes moved to the blue key bowl. "Mom ordered them. With our logo. I approved them. Another mistake? I am trying to build something bigger than the 2 of us working until midnight every night." "You mean bigger than me?" "I mean something that doesn't stop functioning every time you decide nobody else can do things correctly." Mara looked past him at the dark window. Their reflections floated over the street below. Evan standing, her seated, the kitchen light between them. "I'm going to use the review period," she said. "To do what?" "Verify the figures. Correct what isn't true. Decide whether I'm willing to keep guaranteeing the account." His hands flattened on the table. "You've guaranteed it for 6 years. 6 years ago, I knew what we were ordering. You still do. I didn't know we were expanding. We're exploring. I didn't know Lorraine worked for us. She doesn't draw a salary." "That wasn't my question." Evan pulled out the chair and sat at last. The anger went out of him so quickly that Mara distrusted the softer thing left behind. "I should have handled tonight differently. Yes. I got caught up. Mom has felt excluded for a long time. From our business? From our life? She has a key to both. She lent us money, and since then you've treated every suggestion she makes like an attempted coup." Mara thought of the business cards stacked under her chair. Bad example. His mouth twitched despite himself. For a moment, he looked like the man who used to bring her grilled cheese at midnight because she forgot to eat during inventory. "She's excited," he said. "She goes too far when she's excited. And you let her. I manage her. You give her what she wants before she asks loudly. That is sometimes what managing a person looks like. No, Evan, that is protecting yourself from her disappointment." He leaned back. "Here we go." "Where?" "The place where my mother is a pathology, and you're the only adult in the room." Mara felt the sentence land because some part of it was true. She had made a private sport of anticipating Lorraine's worst motive. She had occasionally heard criticism where there was only clumsiness. Lorraine's loan had saved them from making desperate choices, and Mara had accepted it while resenting the obligations attached. But Evan was watching that doubt open in her and mistaking it for surrender. "Correct the wording if you need to," he said. Lower the restaurant growth to 20%. I'll talk to Nathan. But we need the renewal. You need my signature. We need it. He reached across the table. Mara moved her hand before he could cover it. I'm going to bed, she said. The next morning, Lorraine was already at Bellwether when Mara arrived. She had brought lemon pastries and a new brass key ring shaped like a grape leaf. It sat beside the register with 3 keys attached. One for the front, one for the rear, one for the office, Lorraine said. Evan had them made so I don't have to keep borrowing his. Mara took off her coat. The office key opens the filing cabinets? I wouldn't know. It did. Mara looked at Evan, who was unloading a distributor delivery. Operationally necessary, he said. For what operation? Lorraine pushed the pastry box toward her. Eat something before we do this. Do what? The Sunday meeting. It's Saturday. Lorraine blinked and checked her watch as though it displayed the day of the week. Well, that explains the farmer's market. Evan laughed. Mara didn't want to, but a small sound escaped her. Lorraine pointed at her triumphantly. There she is. For half an hour, the 3 of them almost resembled a family. They drank coffee, split pastries, and argued about whether the next tasting should feature coastal wines or mountain vineyards. Lorraine suggested replacing the front pendant lights. Mara said customers complained about the glare from the old bulbs, not the fixtures. Lorraine listened, took a photograph, and said she knew a lighting designer. Then she pulled a folder from her handbag. I made a draft calendar for my events. Your events? Mara asked. Financial wellness tastings, investment groups, women's associations, arts boards, people who buy cases instead of bottles. Mara opened the folder. Lorraine had booked 6 Thursday evenings through December. Thursday is restaurant pickup night. We can shift pickups to Wednesday. No, Lorraine folded her hands. You haven't considered it. I considered it when we set Thursday pickup 6 years ago. Systems evolve, not by surprising the customers. Evan set down his coffee. We could test one. We don't have staff for one. Celia can manage pickups. Celia runs the floor. She'll be running more than that soon, Lorraine said. Again, the glance between them. Mara closed the folder. What did you offer her? Evan answered. Assistant general manager. We don't have a general manager. I'm taking that role. You own the shop, and I manage it. What will Celia be paid? We're working on it. So you offered her a job without a salary. A title first, Lorraine said. Compensation once the renewal is secure. Mara looked at the glossy card peeking from Lorraine's handbag. That seems to be a theme. Celia arrived at 11. Evan asked her into the office. Lorraine followed. Mara remained at the counter while their voices blurred behind the closed door. She checked in a delivery, corrected 3 missing bottles on the invoice, and noticed Evan had ordered 4 cases of a Provençal rosé whose summer allocation had ended. The distributor had supplied it, but at the new price, $9 more per bottle. Mara marked the invoice with her green pencil and took it to the office. Evan was shaking Celia's hand. Lorraine said, We're building a proper leadership team. Celia looked at Mara. Pride and apology crossed her face almost at once. Congratulations, Mara said. Thank you. Celia cleared her throat. The pay starts after renewal. So I heard. It's a significant opportunity, Lorraine said. Mara handed Evan the invoice. Your rosé cost increased by $432. His smile faded. That can't be right. It's out of allocation. I ordered from the sheet. Last quarter's sheet. Lorraine leaned over the invoice. Can we return it? Freight and restocking will cost almost as much as the margin. Evan looked at Celia, then at Mara. What do you suggest? For 10 years, that question had activated something in her before she could think. She would calculate the best glass pour price, call 2 restaurants, build a weekend feature, and move the mistake before it aged into a loss. Now she set the green pencil on top of the invoice. You ordered it, she said. I'm sure you'll figure it out. By Tuesday, the rosé still sat in the back room. Evan discounted it without checking the supplier's pricing rules. Nathan's assistant called Mara because she remained the compliance contact. Mara forwarded the call to Evan and did not join it. On Wednesday, Lorraine's lighting designer arrived during the delivery window and blocked the rear entrance with sample crates. Mara asked him to reschedule. Lorraine called Evan. Evan asked Mara to be flexible. Mara moved none of the crates. The delivery driver left after 12 minutes. Their shipment went back to the warehouse. That evening, Evan stood in the back room staring at the empty space where 38 cases should have been. "You could have called me," he said. "You were here. I was with a customer." "So was I." "You knew they'd leave? You knew the delivery window." He kicked lightly at a wooden pallet, enough to make it scrape. "You're proving a point with the business." "No, I'm no longer preventing you from proving yours." The front bell rang. Celia called that Gannett's wine director was there for an order that had just returned to the warehouse. Evan closed his eyes. Mara felt the old reflex rise again. Call the driver, offer lunch, promise a case to another account, fix it before anyone knew. Instead, she picked up the green pencil from the receiving desk and slid it into her pocket. "Your customer is waiting," she said. Gannett's wine director was standing beside the register with his hands in the pockets of a navy raincoat. Simon Cho had the patient expression of a man who had already been given bad news badly. "Where's the Mencia?" he asked. Evan came out of the back room. "Simon, we had a delivery issue." I gathered that from the absence of wine. The truck had to be turned around. Mara busied herself with a stack of receiving slips. "I need it by 5 tomorrow," Simon said. "The menu changes Friday. We'll have it." "The warehouse doesn't deliver Thursdays," Mara said. Evan gave her a look. "I'll pick it up." Nathan's warehouse was an hour and 20 minutes away without traffic. Evan had not been inside it in 4 years. Simon looked between them. "Should I source it somewhere else?" "No," Evan said. "I've got it." Simon's attention moved to Mara. She could tell him the truth. The Mencia was limited. 2 other retailers might still have enough, and he should call them before they closed. One sentence would protect the account. It would also protect Evan from the promise he had just made. "Call me tomorrow," Evan said. Simon nodded without agreeing. On his way out, he paused beside Mara. "Lucia says you're not handling their holiday list. Evan is managing restaurant accounts now. Did you get promoted?" "Apparently, I've been helping." Simon's mouth bent at one corner. "Sounds prestigious." The bell swung shut behind him. Evan waited 3 seconds. That was unnecessary. "He asked me a question. You enjoyed answering it." "Less than you enjoyed answering for me at the tasting." He took the warehouse keys from the hook. "I'm going to get the order." "It closes at 6. "I know. It's 4:37. "I know, Mara." He called from the highway at 5:12. The warehouse would leave the cases with security for a $75 after-hours fee. Mara approved the charge because her name was still on the Supplier account. When Evan returned at 8, damp with sweat and rain, he carried the Mencia through the rear door himself. Celia helped him stack it. "You should invoice Gannett tonight." "I will." "The restaurant portal locks changes at 10. "I said I will." He snapped at her so sharply that she stepped back. Evan saw it. "Sorry. Long drive." Celia rubbed her palms on her trousers. "I can do the invoice." "Your assistant general manager, delegate." "To who?" The 3 of them looked around the empty shop. Mara turned off the tasting room lights, one bank at a time. At home, Evan showered, opened a beer, and made scrambled eggs. He put a plate in front of Mara without asking if she wanted one. She ate because she'd forgotten dinner and because refusing eggs felt theatrical. He sat across from her in a T-shirt with Bellwether's compass faded across the chest. "You were right about Thursday pickups," he said. Mara lifted her fork. "I shouldn't have let Mom schedule over them." "No, I'll move her events." "Thank you." And the financial director cards were premature. Were they inaccurate? He pushed eggs around his plate. We haven't defined the role. She has keys to the files. I'll get the office key back. What about the front and rear keys? She's working there. Doing what? He put down his fork. Can we have one conversation where an answer is just an answer? When you give one. I am trying to tell you I was wrong about some things. Some things. Yes, some. I'm not going to sit here and confess that every decision I've made since Mom wrote that check was an attack on you. I didn't ask you to. You don't have to. It's in your face. Mara carried her plate to the sink. Nathan needs corrected restaurant figures by Friday. Evan leaned back. 20%. 6. That's absurd. It's supported by current orders. We're adding Lorraine's events. Events aren't restaurant accounts. They're revenue. Then list them as unconfirmed event revenue. That makes us look weak. It makes us look accurate. We need current allocation to grow. We need current allocation to fill the orders we already have. Which is why I drove 3 hours tonight. No, you drove 3 hours because the delivery truck left. He stood. And you let it. There it was, the accusation he had been circling all week. Mara turned from the sink. You moved the delivery operation around Lorraine without asking me. You approved the lighting appointment. You told me she needed the key. How far does your authority go, Evan? Just until something goes wrong? I expected my wife to make a phone call. You told Nathan I reviewed a contract I never saw. That has nothing to do with a truck. It has everything to do with it. You want me absent when authority feels good and present when consequences arrive. He opened his mouth, then looked away. The quiet might have helped if his phone had not lit on the table. Mom. He answered on the 4th ring and walked into the living room. Mara heard him say, No, it's fine. We're working through it. She washed both plates. The shared reserve account was short $85,000. Mara discovered it the next morning when she logged in to schedule the quarterly lease transfer. The balance looked wrong before she understood why. She opened the transaction list and found a wire to Lorraine dated the day after the anniversary tasting. The memo read, Loan principal. She called Evan. He sent her to voicemail. She called Lorraine. Mara, Lorraine said brightly, I'm about to go into Pilates. Did Evan send you $85,000? Silence replaced the brightness. It was an early principal payment. From our personal reserve. He said the two of you agreed. No, he didn't. Lorraine inhaled. Then this is a conversation for your marriage. You accepted the money. I accepted repayment of a lawful debt. Bellwether owes you. That account belonged to Evan and me. Evan told me it was accumulated profit. It was our emergency reserve. Well, he characterized it differently. Would you have taken it if he'd characterized it accurately? Lorraine took so long that Mara could hear the faint, mechanical thump of music wherever she was standing. I have spent 2 years being made to feel predatory for helping you, she said. If Evan chose to repay part of the loan, I was not going to insult him by refusing. Return it. You need to speak to your husband. Return my half. I am not dividing funds based on a marital argument I don't understand. You understand it. Lorraine's voice became quiet. Yes, I understand that my son is terrified the shop will fail, and his wife is standing back to teach him a lesson. Mara gripped the phone. Lorraine continued, I understand that he is trying to remove my leverage because you keep describing my loan as a threat. I understand that he thought repayment would make the renewal look stronger, and I understand that you would rather watch him struggle than admit he needs you. For one sick moment, Mara saw herself from Lorraine's side, precise, withholding, letting the delivery leave while Evan's promise collapsed. The picture was distorted but not invented. Then Mara looked again at the transfer date. He wired you the money before the truck left. Lorraine said nothing. Before I stopped fixing anything, before I reviewed the packet, he emptied our reserve the morning after the tasting. He was protecting the business. From me? The music thumped again. Lorraine ended the call. Evan came into Bellwether 40 minutes later. Mara was waiting in the office with the account statement on the metal desk. He closed the door behind him. I was going to explain. After I signed? His gaze dropped to the statement. That money reduced our debt exposure, he said. Nathan's credit team was concerned about the outstanding family loan. So you took it from our reserve. It was not doing us any good sitting there. It was doing exactly what a reserve does. We can rebuild it. It took us 7 years. We used business distributions to fund it. We used our money. He sat on the edge of the desk. I made a call. You forged my permission. I didn't need your signature on the wire. That isn't the same as permission. I own half of that account. You sent all of it. 85 isn't all of it. It's most of it. His face changed. You were considering leaving. Mara went still. I saw you looking at apartments, he said. She had opened 3 listings after reading the renewal packet. She had not contacted anyone. So you moved the money where I couldn't reach it. I paid a legitimate debt, a debt owed by the business using our personal savings to your mother. She'll restructure the balance. For what? He looked at the office door. For what, Evan? More favorable terms. Mara folded the statement once, then again. This marriage protects you, she said. It protects your mother. It protects the shop. It protects every promise you make to everybody else. That is not fair. What does it protect me from? He stood. You're not in danger. No, I'm useful. Mara. Celia knocked once and opened the door. Her face was pale. Sorry, she said. Nathan's credit team wants the inventory report, and I have a question. Evan took the report from her. I'll handle it. Celia kept hold of one corner. Lorraine told me to move the discounted rosé back to full value inventory. It is inventory. It's already sold down by 11 bottles, and the rest is marked for promotion. That's merchandising, not shrinkage. She also told me not to include the missed restaurant shipment until it's invoiced. Evan released the paper. She doesn't understand the form. She said you approved it. Mara looked at him. He shook his head. I told her the review needed to show stability. I did not tell her to alter anything. Celia swallowed. What do I submit? The accurate numbers, Mara said. Evan's voice sharpened. We need to discuss how the promotional inventory is classified. Then classify it accurately. You don't get to dictate this alone. My name is on the compliance statement, and mine is on the company. Celia stood between them, holding the report like something hot. Mara said, Send me the source counts. I'll certify what I can verify. Evan stepped in front of the door. If you submit that without me, you are deliberately undermining Renewal. If I certify your mother's numbers, I'm guaranteeing something untrue. They are not untrue. They're presented strategically. Celia laughed, a short, nervous burst. I think that's what untrue people call untrue. Evan stared at her. She straightened. You promoted me. That doesn't make you a partner. No, apparently it doesn't even make me paid. He moved away from the door. Mara sent the report at 4:16 with the discounted inventory, delayed shipment, and corrected restaurant projections. She copied Evan and Lorraine. At 4:28, Nathan called. The discrepancies take you out of automatic renewal, he said. Mara closed her eyes. What happens now? Formal portfolio review, financial capacity, operational continuity, management structure. When? Next Thursday. Your current agreement expires at the end of the month. Who needs to attend? All principals, the guarantor, and anyone presented as senior management. Lorraine arrived before Nathan finished sending the notice. Evan must have called her. She entered the office without knocking, dropped her grape leaf keyring on the desk, and shut the door in Celia's face. You did this deliberately, she said. I submitted accurate figures. You chose the least flattering possible interpretation. 11 bottles were gone. Lorraine turned to Evan. Tell her the offer. Mara looked between them. What offer? Evan's expression was exhausted, almost tender. We make your role official. he said. Founder and portfolio advisor, public title, full credit, your biography on everything. Mom handles finance, I handle operations, and you retain supplier relations. Retain? You sign the renewal and step away from daily management. No more fighting over keys and deliveries. Lorraine opened her handbag and placed one of her gold compass cards on the desk. Beside it, she laid a blank card. For yours, she said. Mara looked at the empty white rectangle. They had found a cleaner way to erase her. This time, they wanted her to choose the font. Mara picked up the blank card. The paper was heavy, expensive. The gold compass sat at the bottom, waiting for a name. What exactly would a portfolio advisor do? She asked. Evan relaxed slightly. He thought the question meant negotiation. You'd maintain the vineyard relationships, review buying strategy, be present for major tastings. Would I place orders? Through me? Approve pricing? We'd discuss it as a leadership team. Access the business email? Of course. Lorraine added, with separate permissions for financial material. Would I have a key? Neither of them answered. Mara put the card down. You want my resume attached to the renewal and my hands off the shop. That's an ugly way to describe a reasonable division of labor, Lorraine said. What does Evan divide? He's the general manager. He promised himself a real job. Mara, Evan said, this is an attempt to save our marriage. By making sure I can't interfere with my own business. By ending the daily warfare. You don't trust me to order rosé. I don't trust you not to let a delivery drive away to prove I ordered it wrong. We cannot keep doing this. That part was true. It hurt because it was true. Mara folded her hands in her lap. And if I say no? Lorraine removed a second document from her handbag. There is another option. It was not a contract, only a proposal written by Lorraine's accountant. Lorraine would forgive the remaining balance of her loan in exchange for a portion of Mara's ownership. Evan would retain his half. Lorraine's share would come entirely from Mara's. You'd own more of Bellwether than I would, Mara said. My money is already at risk. Your loan is secured by inventory. Inventory you just devalued in writing. I reported its value. Lorraine pressed 2 fingers to the document. This would remove the monthly payment, improve cash flow, and give the supplier confidence. You could remain involved at a level that suits you. What level is that? 10%. Evan stared at the desk. Mara looked at him. You knew? We talked about possibilities. Did you tell her to ask for my share instead of yours? That isn't how it happened. Then offer her yours. Lorraine sat back. Evan runs the company. Mara runs the company, Celia said through the door. Lorraine swung it open. Celia stood on the other side with a roll of receipt paper in one hand. Do you make a habit of listening outside offices? Lorraine asked. The register is 6 feet away. If you want privacy, stop conducting coups next to retail. Go home, Evan said. I'm scheduled until 8. I'm the general manager. Go home. Celia looked at Mara. Mara wanted to tell her to stay. She wanted one person in the room who remembered what had happened without needing to reshape it first. Instead, she said, Clock out. Celia's disappointment was immediate. You shouldn't lose wages for this, Mara added. Write the full shift on your timesheet. Evan started to object. Mara looked at him until he stopped. Celia set the receipt paper down. For what it's worth, I don't want the promotion. Lorraine gave a small shrug. That is your decision. No, I mean I don't want to manage the version of this place you're building. She collected her coat and left through the rear door. Lorraine watched it close. Loyalty is becoming very theatrical around here. Mara rose. Where are you going? Evan asked. Home. We have to answer Nathan. You answer him for yourself. I'll answer for myself. He followed her to the sales floor. If you walk away now, you are choosing to put Bellwether at risk. Mara stopped beside the walnut chair. Lorraine's glossy card still filled the drawer beneath it. Mara took out her old corkscrew, the copy of their first sales receipt, and the green wax pencils. She left the cards. I'm choosing not to guarantee decisions I'm prevented from making. You're punishing the business because you hate my mother. No, Mara closed the drawer. I hate what you become when she wants something. Lorraine had come into the room behind them. Her face changed, but Evan's did not. He said, "At least be honest. You've wanted me to choose between you for years. I wanted you to choose the marriage when someone entered it without knocking. She helped us. And you turned every boundary into an unpaid bill." Mara lifted the corkscrew and pencils from the chair. Evan's voice dropped. "If you leave tonight, don't expect to come back and dictate terms." She looked at him, waiting for the fear to arrive. It did. It arrived cleanly, and it did not stop her. "I don't expect to come back." She slept at a hotel 2 blocks from Gannett because she could not bear the idea of Evan watching her pack. The room had a humming ice machine outside and a framed photograph of grapes that were not wine grapes. Mara lay awake until 3, then emailed Nathan. "I will attend the review. I am not currently prepared to renew my personal guarantee or certify operational continuity under the proposed management structure." She read it 7 times before sending. In the morning, she called a lawyer whose name had been sitting in her contacts since the transfer from the reserve account. The lawyer did not promise that Mara would keep Bellwether, recover every dollar, or leave untouched. She said joint business ownership made separation slow, expensive, and dependent on valuations neither spouse would enjoy. "What do you want most?" she asked. Mara looked at her overnight bag on the hotel floor. "To stop being collateral." "That I understand." The divorce petition was filed 2 days before the review. Evan received it at Bellwether. He called Mara once. When she answered, he said nothing for so long she checked the screen. "You filed," he finally said. "Yes." "Before we talked." "We've been talking for years." "I mean really talked." "So do I." He breathed into the phone. Behind him, she could hear bottles clinking into a box. "Mom says you planned this before the anniversary." "Your mother says many things with great confidence." "Were you?" "No." He was quiet again. Mara sat at a table in Gannett's empty dining room. Simon had given her the space to work after hearing she had left Bellwether, then pretended not to notice when she cried over a freight spreadsheet. "I thought you'd cool down," Evan said. "I know." "I thought once you saw what the renewal meant, you'd sign." "I know." "I thought the store mattered enough. That was the cruelty of it. He still believed the shop was the thing Mara had refused to save. It mattered enough for me to tell the truth about it." He ended the call. Nathan's formal review was scheduled for 10 Thursday morning, 2 hours before Bellwether's winter portfolio preview. Evan refused to cancel the preview. He sent invitations describing it as a celebration of Bellwether's next chapter and told vendors the renewal would be announced after the meeting. Nathan called Mara when he received the invitation. "Did you approve a public announcement?" "No." "Evan says the review is procedural." "Is it?" There was a pause. "No." When Mara arrived Thursday, Lorraine's new pendant lights were hanging above the tasting counter. The bulbs were softer than the old ones. She'd been right about that. The walnut chair stood at the center of the Supplier table. Lorraine was seated in it, wearing a burgundy suit and speaking to 2 vineyard representatives who had attended the anniversary. Evan had placed white folders at every seat. Bellwether. 3-year growth plan was printed across the covers. Celia was behind the register. "I thought you quit," Mara said. "I did. Then Evan asked me to work the preview at double pay." "Did you get it in writing?" Celia patted her pocket. "You've taught me some things." Evan approached in a charcoal suit Mara had chosen for him before a trade dinner in Seattle. "You came." Nathan required it. His expression closed. "The credit team is on video in the office. Nathan wants the management discussion in here because the office is too small." Lorraine rose from the chair. "Mara, I hope we can conduct ourselves professionally. I sent accurate numbers. I'm already ahead." Lorraine smiled without warmth. Nathan told us the renewal can proceed with conditions. Evan has agreed to them. What conditions? You'll hear them with everyone else. The room filled before 10. Not with customers, but with supplier representatives. 2 restaurant buyers, Nathan's regional sales manager, and a vineyard owner who had flown in for the preview. Evan circulated with coffee. Lorraine handed out growth plans. Nobody knew whether they were attending a business review or a celebration, which was exactly how Evan liked a room. Committed before it understood the invitation. Nathan arrived carrying his tablet and a leather folder. He did not take a white growth plan. At 10:15, he asked everyone to sit. Mara chose a straight-back chair near the end of the table. Lorraine remained in the walnut one. Evan stood beside her. Nathan summarized the inventory corrections, restaurant projections, and management changes in neutral language. Lorraine described her loan and early repayment. Evan presented the second location as a long-term possibility rather than a current plan. Then he smiled at the table. The important thing is that Bellwether is moving forward. We're grateful Nathan's team has approved our renewal, and especially grateful to Mom for giving us the stability to get here. Lorraine lowered her eyes modestly. The same Oregon vineyard owner who had applauded at the anniversary began clapping. 2 others joined him. Mara watched Evan enjoy 3 seconds of the story he had built. Nathan did not clap. "Before we characterize the outcome," he said, "we need to finish the approval." He opened the page on his tablet and turned it toward Evan. The screen showed 3 authorization fields. Evan's was signed. A corporate approval from Nathan's company appeared below it. Mara Bell, designated buyer and personal guarantor, remained blank. Evan's smile thinned. "Mara?" Lorraine looked down the table. "This is the signature we discussed." "No," Mara said. "It's the signature you assumed." The air in the room changed. Celia stopped moving behind the register. Nathan spoke carefully. "The current renewal structure retains Mara as designated buyer and guarantor. If she approves, the account continues under the conditional allocations in the packet." "And if she doesn't?" one of the vineyard representatives asked. Nathan looked at Mara before answering. "Bellwether can reapply under its proposed management structure without her guarantee. That requires cash before delivery, reduced allocations, and removal from the exclusive portfolio until a new operating history is established." Lorraine leaned toward Mara. "You are an owner. Those terms damage your own company." "Yes. Then sign and resolve your personal issues somewhere else." Mara looked at Evan. "Is that what you want?" His face was pale. "I want you to stop turning this into a test." "It became a test when you told Nathan I approved numbers you kept from me. I made mistakes. You made plans. I was trying to grow the store. You moved our savings to your mother. To repay a debt, you offered her my ownership. That was her proposal. And you sat beside her while she made it." Lorraine pushed back the walnut chair. "Evan has spent 10 years making room for your control." Mara turned to her. "And you spent 2 years collecting gratitude as interest." The word struck harder than Mara intended. Lorraine's face lost its color. Mara continued more quietly. "Your loan helped. I never denied that. You deserved repayment and thanks. You did not deserve my chair, my work, or my marriage." Lorraine's hand settled on the pale ring worn into the chair's arm. For once, she had no polished answer. Evan looked around the table, finally seeing the people who had heard him reduce Mara to family help. "Mara built the Supplier program," he said. It was not enough, but it was true. He swallowed. "She built the restaurant accounts, too. The renewal depended on her because most of the business depended on her." No one applauded. The admission sat where his toast had been. Nathan touched the tablet screen. "Mara, I need your decision." She thought of the hotel ice machine, the vanished reserve, the Mencia on the highway, and Evan's wedding band smeared with wine while he held the office door closed. "I won't renew my guarantee." Nathan closed the approval page. Evan gripped the back of Lorraine's chair. "Then what happens to Bellwether?" "You run the company you said you were running. The new terms began at the end of the month. Bellwether survived, but survival became work Evan could no longer rename. Cash before delivery shrank what he could order. The lost exclusive portfolio sent restaurant buyers elsewhere. Lorraine canceled her event series when she learned each event would require deposits Bellwether could not float. During mediation, Evan agreed to return Mara's share of the reserve from his portion of the business settlement. To raise the cash and meet supplier terms, he sold part of his interest to a local restaurant group. Lorraine kept her remaining secured loan and lost the title of financial director. Mara surrendered the Bellwether name and her ownership in exchange for a clean exit, the reserve repayment, and the walnut chair. Celia left when her double-pay preview check cleared. The consulting room above Gannett had slanted floors and one window facing an alley, but the light at dusk was good. Simon became Mara's first client. 3 other restaurants followed. Celia joined her with a modest investment and a written partnership agreement they argued over for 6 days before signing. The chair arrived on a rainy afternoon, wrapped in a moving blanket. Mara carried it upstairs with Celia, one landing at a time. "You know," Celia said breathless, "the leg actually is a little loose now." It developed a condition. They set it beside the window. Mara unlocked the shallow drawer with the warm brass key. Her old corkscrew lay inside beside the first day's sales receipt. The glossy cards were gone. At dusk, she opened a bottle for a chef coming after service. She drew one green line across the glass, then another, and placed it on the shelf behind her chair. When she locked the room that night, the only key she carried belonged to a door no one else could open without asking.